Okay, so we're in the middle of Yudalid, about 3 lines before the Mishnah. 4 lines. Actually, 6 lines before the Mishnah. Gufa, second word on the line. Okay, so we've been talking about yados, the handles of things, and if they are, the usual discussion of the yad is whether it is something that makes it susceptible to tuma by virtue of being a handle for the thing which is already susceptible to tuma, like a grape stem. So we said, Gufa, kol yados ha'ochlin shebesasan b'garan taharos. Stems, handles of fruit, which I'll call stems, that you crush them on the threshing floor, are tahar. In other words, you've changed their nature. They're no longer part of the food. You've crushed them. You've done an action that changes them, so they're no longer susceptible to tuma. Rabbi Yossi says they still are. So my besasan, what do you mean by they're crushed? Besasan mamash. Rabbi Yochanan says you really crush them into, they're completely kind of come apart. Rabbi Lazar Omer hitir agdan. No, it's only, even if you do something as simple as untying a bundle of them, that is considered crushing. So Bishlam Rabbi Lazar Diamar Besasan hitir agdan. So if you say that according to Rabbi Lazar, that it's just untying them or doing some minor action to them, I know Tommy Rabbi Yossi. Okay, so I understand why Rabbi Yossi says they're Tommy. They're still susceptible to tuma because you didn't really do anything, right? Just untying a bundle isn't such a big deal. So I understand the argument against that.
This is a bundle of stems.
Yeah, grape stems, which are yados to the grapes. Without the grapes, yeah, the grape is always going to be. Yeah, that you would bundle stems. Yeah, that's a good point. And then in order to what? Just to crush them. Right? Yeah. Maybe they could be used for fuel or something. I don't know. But if you say it means they're really crushed, why would you disagree? That seems like a real action that really changes their nature from grape stems to grape stem dust or something. I don't know what to call it. So why would Rabbi Yossi say that they're susceptible to tuma? It seems like you really did something to them to change their status. Well, even when they're crushed, they're still useful. So Rabbi Yossi could be saying, since they're still useful as to be part of a pitchforking operation, so because it lets you even if it's now it sounds like it's still attached to the thing, but the stem is crushed. So it allows you to. It makes it easier to turn it over with a pitchfork, which is, I guess, part of the threshing operation. So you could say, Rabbi Yossi could say, you haven't changed them enough to be effective. Amar Blazar, speaking of pitchforks, why are the prayers of the righteous like a pitchfork? To tell you, just as a pitchfork, you turn over, you move the produce from one place to another. The prayer of the righteous changes God's mind, as it were, from cruelty to mercy. So, a couple of interesting things here. I mean, midas achzarius. Often we see midas hadin, right? The strict judgment.
That's a little rough.
That's harsh. Yeah, that's pretty harsh. The cruelty changes God's, and the idea of, that you can change God's mind in this almost physical way, right? This image of turning over straw or hay, whatever it is, with a pitchfork, that the righteous can go in there and mess with God's mind, as it were, is very, very striking. So not sure what to make of that, but it's worth noting.
That's quite a tangent or a turn from discussing tuma of stems to God's, effect on prayer.
Yes, it is.
Like stop on a dime and move,
Yeah, and I saw in the note here that The word eser, pitchfork, is the same root or letters as vayetar. Like when Yitzchak and Rivka prayed for a child, vayetar Yitzchak
Okay.
Yitzchak prayed. He entreated God. So that's another indication of the connection.
Moses says, well, why is tzaddikim compared? You're expected to say that Rabbi Elazar says that the tefillah of tzaddikim is compared to a pitchfork. How come? Because this and this. Who says it's compared to a pitchfork?
Yeah, so that's Ikar Chasam Min HaSefer. It's missing here from this quote, but I think it's from Vayetar.
Yeah, right. It's from,
right. Okay, next Mishnah. Nesachim ben Nesarim. You can use for schach. You can use boards, like think 2x4s, but we'll see they're wider actually. But you can use boards to cover a sukkah for your schach. Divrei Rabbi Yehuda. That's what Rabbi Yehuda says. Rabbi Meir says no, you cannot. We'll see in the Gemara what the definition of a neser, of a board is. If you put a board that's 4 tefach wide, then the sukkah is still good. But you can't sleep or do whatever sukkah activity you're doing directly under that board. So if it's 4 wide, it's not valid schach, okay? But it doesn't invalidate the rest of the sukkah. Okay? All right, let's see what the Gemara has to say about this. The dispute between Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbi Meir as to whether a board is valid schach or not is the 4 wide. Okay, the Rabbi Meir is like Zeres Tikra. Rabbi Meir says you can't use such a wide board because it's like a ceiling. Okay, it looks too much like a ceiling. So the material may be valid. It's wood and it's grows from the ground. It's not Mekabel Tumah. It's not susceptible to Tumah. But it looks like a ceiling, and then people will come to think that you can have a regular ceiling in a sukkah, and they won't pay attention to the material.
Even if you fashion it into a board, it can't like it's a finished product. It's not like.
Yeah, so is the board a kli? So maybe a 2x4 is not a good thing.
No, I'm just wondering, if it's like humans made it into a object, that has a use.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder if it's then a kli. Yeah.
Could be, but let's say you find a wide piece of bark or something in the forest.
Oh, okay.
Okay,
right. Is that what they're talking about?
Maybe. I'm not sure. Okay. I don't know. For Rabbi Yehuda, but Rabbi Yehuda is not concerned that you're going to mistake this for a ceiling. I will be concerned, but if it's less than 4 wide, then Divrei Kol Kshera, everybody says it's fine. But Shmuel says no. They're even arguing when it's narrower than 4 tefachim. But if it's more than 4, then even Rabbi Meir would say that it is no good. If that's too wide. Maybe this is, maybe because it's a kli, or maybe it is because then even Rabbi Meir would say there's tikra, that it's too much like a ceiling. Now, Ein Behen Arba, so the Gemara says, okay, so what do you mean that they argue about if it's less than 4 tefachim? Well, how much less? Afilu pachos b'shlosha, like even if it's less than 3, if it's less than 3 tefachim wide, they're just sticks. Now, I don't know, 3 tefachim wide is like, that's a big stick. But whatever, I mean, the question is still valid. Like, how narrow, at what point does it become narrow enough to not be called a board anymore, or to not be subject to this dispute that everybody would say it's kosher? Amar Rav Papa Hachikama is what it means. Yeshman Arba Divrei Kol Psula. Okay, more than 4, everybody says no good. Pachos Mishlosha Divrei Kol Kshera. If it's less than 3, everybody says it's okay. What my tama? Why? Because they're just sticks. Keep lige. When did Rabbi Meir and Rabbi Yehuda and Mishnah disagree? Mishlosha Arba. 3 between 3 and 4 tefach. Mar Savar Kevin listening Shir Malcolm Logos Rian. Since one says that since it's not a significant space, right? The kind of the definition or the general use of something that's a significant space, that measure is 4 tefachim, and this one is only 3.5 tefachim, so it's not a significant space. it's fine. Umar Savar came enough does Rina. The other one says, we do have a 3 tefach measure, and that is the idea of lavud, right? When you fill in a gap, like a virtual gap, not fill it in physically, but when you have a gap that's 3 tefachim or less in a wall, or in the schach, you can say it's, you bridge that space in a halachic way. In other words, it's not a significant gap. So since there is a measurement of 3 tefachim, applies to the sukkah, by the way, that 3 tefachim is the maximum for that. So since greater than three tefachim is no longer qualifies for lavud, so Rameir would say that it is invalid.
But yeah, so the next question is obviously why it's for lavud. Why is it 3 and not 2?
Yeah, that's a good question, right? Yeah.
I thought in Eruvin we allowed larger spaces to be metaphysically filled in. No?
Yeah, we're talking about the minimum. We're talking about like what's the minimum that's a significant space.
Oh,
right?
what constitutes a gap?
Yeah.
Like
well, what constitutes a significant space? So, like, think of the idea of carrying 4 amos on Shabbat. No, that's amos. Sorry, never mind.
okay, but that's a distance. Yeah, right. Before that, less than that, it's not carrying. Right.
But the question about why 3 and not 4, I mean, why 4, right? And usually we say that these measurements are lachol Moshe Sinai.
Right.
Right. So
that's always an answer. An answer is good.
Yeah, well, but the Gemara said, that's what the Gemara usually ends up with, is like, where do you get this from? And it's I think the prevailing opinion is that there are all these things are halachah Moshe Sinai. We had a few days ago, I think, right? That there may be an asmachta, there may be a reference, and we had a reference from the Chemia, right? But the idea of where does it come from originally seems to be halachah Moshe Sinai. So you might as well ask about 4. It's about 3. Okay, it's not. We have a mission. You have a 4 wide board that's kosher, but don't sleep underneath it. In other words, it doesn't invalidate the rest of the schach. Just you can't be directly underneath that 4 wide.
This is another Mishnah from Sukkah.
I'm sorry.
This is another Mishnah from our Masechet.
No, this is our Mishnah. This is our Mishnah.
Oh, this is our Mishnah. Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay, so in our own Mishnah, this works according to Shmuel, who explained that that the only dispute between Rav Meir and Rabbi Yehuda is less than 4. So more than 4, Shmuel said they agree that it's possible, and that's what the end of the Mishnah says, right? Underneath that area of the 4 wide board that's not valid schach, although it's saying that it doesn't invalidate the rest of it, but that's a separate issue. That's why you shouldn't sleep under it, because it's not valid schach. But Rav, who says that this is the machlokas in the Reisha, Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbi Meir, whether a 4 wide board is kosher or not. But if it's less than 4, everybody agrees it's fine. So Rabbi Yehuda, so according to Rabbi Yehuda, like in our Mishnah, the Mishnah shouldn't say that it's fine to use a 4 wide board, because that's not true according to Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi Yehuda says 4 wide board is invalid. So the answer is okay. So the end of the Mishnah is not according to both Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbi Meir. Seifas on Rabbi Meir. The end of the Mishnah is indeed according to Rabbi Meir, who says that a 4 wide board up to 4 is fine. Okay, Tashma. Let's try and.
So you can have how much percentage of your schach can be invalid, and without invalidating the whole sukkah? You know what I mean?
Yes, good question. I'm trying to remember. So if you have 2 4 wide boards in a row, I think that's no good, right? So you have to have enough valid schach, and that can be extended by invalid schach. But as we'll see in a minute, there's different rules if that's like the end, right? So there's different rules about the edge. How wide can the edge be of invalid schach as opposed to the middle? Okay, so you could actually have a sukkah with, you know, four tefachim of good schach, and then a four wide board, which is no good, and then more good schach, and then four wide board. You could have like half of your sukkah be invalid schach, and it would still be a valid sukkah as long as you're underneath the valid part.
It's still a valid sukkah, right? I mean,
Yeah.
you still have to, yeah. I mean, it's kind of a weird concept that you have a valid sukkah, but you could not fulfill your obligation to sit in the sukkah because
you're under the wrong part.
yeah, isn't that a weird concept?
Yeah, but you think it's kind of necessary if you, depending on how your sukkah is constructed, right, and how the walls and the support for the schach is constructed. Once, if you're going to allow, you know, let's say a metal support or something that's invalid, then how wide? Then you get the question of, okay, well, how much of that can you have? And then you get to this admittedly weird situation where almost half of your schach can be invalid.
Right, and that your sukkah is valid. Okay.
Okay. Tashma. Shnei sidinim mitzarfim. Two. If you have two sheets together, so a sheet is a kli. So you can't use a sheet for your schach. And if you have two together, then it appears to be that each one is less than 4 tefach, but the total makes it more. Let's say each one is 3 tefach, right? Two strips of cloth. Each one is 3 tefach wide, so together they make 6. So that's no good. That makes the whole sukkah no good. Shnei nasarim ein mitzarfim. If you have 2 boards of 3 tefach wide, they don't combine together. So you could have 2 in a row, right? So this gives rise to an even stranger situation where presumably you could have more than half of your sukkah be boards, which are invalid. But since each board is less than 3 tefachim, it's still kosher according to this. But Rabbi Meir says, "Afin sarim kistinim." Now, boards and sheets are the same. So okay, again, according to Shmuel, who said the only dispute between Rabbi Yehuda and Meir is when it's less than 4 wide, but more than 4 wide, they both agree it's invalid. The board is invalid. My mitzarfin. So what does Rabbi Meir mean that they combine? Mitzarfin larba. He means that it must be talking about a case that there's 2 boards that come together to make 4 tefachim, and that disqualifies the whole sukkah. But Rav, who says that even beyond 4, there's still a dispute between Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbi Meir. But less than 4, everybody says it's fine. What are we talking about here? If each board has a width of 4, so you don't even need them to combine, right? Each one by itself invalidates the sukkah. If it's less than 4, am I? So, like, why would you? Then a wood board, which is less than 4, is like good schach, right? They're sticks. They're like perfectly good schach if they're less than 4. So why would you not combine them, right? I mean, why would combining them be a problem?
Yeah.
The answer is Leolam de'isbahu arba. Okay, we're talking about boards which are 4 wide. What do you mean when you say they join together? Mitzarfin la'arba amos min hatzad. So I mentioned before that the rules we're discussing right now are in the middle, right? But from the side, 4 amos is too wide to be like your schach can't be less than 4. Your good schach can't be less than 4 amos from the wall of the sukkah, right? You can't have a space of more than 4 amos between the edge of your schach and the wall. Okay, so when is a 4 wide thing invalid according to Rabbi Meir? If it's at the edge. If it's in the middle, that's what our mission is talking about. But if it's at the edge, everybody agrees that 4 tefachim is too far from the edge for the good schach to start.
So if you're putting up invalid schach to fill up your sukkah, you should do it
in the middle.
In the middle and not on the side.
Right. Well, you can do it on the side if it's less than, I think, 3 tefach. Because then you use a concept called dofen akuma, right? So if the wall is here and the schach starts here, so if if the distance is, I think, less than 3 tvachim, you can view the wall as if it's, diagonal. Okay.
Okay.
If it's further away, then there's still a gap. You can't lean the wall that much.
Okay. So just say it again. It's better to put it in the middle than on the sides in general.
Because the limitations on how wide your invalid schach can be in the middle, you have more room there than on the edge, where the limit of how much space there can be between the good schach and the wall is a smaller amount.
Okay. Well said, if I understand it. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
And the Gemara doesn't discuss why there's a difference between the sorim and sheets.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it started talking about sheets and then it moved right back to the boards.
Boards, yeah. The difference between boards and sheets. Well, sheets are definitely a kli, right?
I
Like,
guess. I don't know why they didn't say, you can't put sheets because it looks like a roof, that.
it's only, yeah. So maybe it's if it's a kli only if it's a certain width. Then it has a use. A pillowcase. I don't know.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Lishach another version of what we just had. It's fine according to Shmuel, who says that the dispute in the Mishnah is when there is less than 4. But more than 4, everybody says it's the board is invalid. And because my mitzarfim, because what do you mean when you say the boards can combine mitzarfim? L'arba must be natsat. It means from the side, if you have 2 together that are 2 amos each, 2 tefach each, and that makes 4 altogether. And if it's at the edge, then that's invalid. Okay, so that I understand. Rav, but according to Rav, who says that the dispute in the Mishnah is it applies even to 4 tefach. Bishlam Rav Meir. So I understand according to Rav Meir, my mitzarfim. What do you mean by saying that they combine to make the sukkah invalid? That's they're on the edge. El Rabbi Yehuda Diamar Afilu Yeshman Arba Kshera. But Rabbi Yehuda, who says even if it's 4 wide, it's still okay. My aim is starfin. So why would you say they don't combine? They're just sticks, right? You should definitely be able to combine sticks. So the Gemara answers, I didn't come Rabbi Meir mitzarfin, not Rabbi Yehuda mitzarfin. So it's just a linguistic thing. Since Rabbi Meir says they combine, Rabbi Yehuda, to kind of offset that, says they don't combine. But really, even the boards themselves are okay. It's a little strange. I like the first version better, personally. So that's just me. We have a brisa recording that accords with each of Rav and Shmuel. Rav's support is as follows. Brisa says, Sikcha ben sarim shel eres she'em ben arba. What if you use for schach cedar boards that are less than 4 wide? Everybody says that's okay. Yesh ben arba, and if it is 4 wide, Rabbi Meir posel, Rabbi Yehuda machshir. Meir says it's no good, Rabbi Yehuda says good. So that's clearly like Rav's interpretation of our Mishnah. It's black and white. Rabbi Yehuda, and now this continues with Rabbi Yehuda supporting his own position. There was one time where it was a time of danger. Presumably that means like persecution. Shehivenu Nasarim Shahayuba Arba. We took boards that were 4 wide. We put it on top of some kind of a portico, and we sat under it as a sukkah. So that appears to support Rabbi Yehuda's view that even if it's 4 wide, it's still kosher, right? So
that was not the fact.
Yeah, can you prove from that? And raya, that was a time of extreme circumstances. That doesn't.
I would think that the Gemara would go the other way. That proves it's not okay, but only okay.
Yeah, that's a good point, right?
You know what I mean? Usually the Gemara would think like that.
Yeah, although I could say that, just because Rabbi Yehuda says that it's kosher doesn't mean he really wanted to do it, right? He'd rather use some nice smelling pine branches. But okay. Tani Kvasi to Shmuel. Now we have another brisa that supports Shmuel's view of the machlokas. Sikha ben Nasarim shel eretz sheish ben arba. If you use
Does
board,
it matter here that we're talking about cedar, or is it just that's just
no,
would it be a different rule for cedar, or
interesting question. It doesn't appear that would be any different than anything else.
yeah, maybe I mean that was a popular wood, that they could get. So maybe that's
I suppose so.
okay.
Okay, so this brisa says, if you use 4 wide boards, wood boards, everybody says 4 is too wide. And what if it's less than 4? Rabbi Meir posts or Rabbi Lamachshir. Rabbi Meir says no good, and Rabbi Yehuda says it is good. So again, this is black and white, supports Shmuel's read of our Mishnah. Umoda, and this brisa continues. Moda Rabbi Meir, she'im yesh ben neser leneser kimlo neser. Rabbi Meir says that if you have between each board, you have the same width of open space. Shemaniach pas psal b'neim, you could put invalid schach between them. Ukshera, and then the sukkah is good. Umoda Rabbi Yehuda. So in other words, that just validates that the board itself is fine, because it's saying that if you have in between the valid boards, you put something invalid, then you're still okay, right? As long as you don't have too wide invalid stuff.
You got a 3 and then a 4. Let's just say the 4 is invalid. So you put a 3 and then a 4 is in the middle, and then you put a 3 on the other side.
Right.
That's
and
okay.
then another 4 board. Right. That's okay. So then it indicates clearly that 4 is okay. Hold on 1 second. Sorry. Just send on this code. 055016. Okay. Okay. And Rabbi Yehuda, agrees that im nasan aleh neser shurachav arba tfachim shera. If you put a board that's 4 tefach on the sukkah, the sukkah is valid. Ve'ein shein tachtov, even though it's valid, you still can't sleep underneath that board. The board itself is too wide. And this is a priori thing. It's if you do sleep under that board, then you don't fulfill the mitzvah. Okay, Itmar. So Itmar, we have a statement. Hafachan al sidan. What if you take these 4 wide boards and put it on its side? Okay, so now it's on the narrow edge. Okay, is that valid? Rav Huna Amar Psula. Rav Huna says no. They're still 4 wide boards. They're still not suitable for use in the sukkah, even turned on their edge. These other 2 say it's kosher. Iklar of Nachman Surah. Rav Nachman came to Surah. Olagabe Rav Chisda Rav Huna. So these 2, yeah.
This presumes all along that the occupant is sleeping horizontally under the postal piece, but if he sleeps perpendicular,
that's a good question.
part of his body's yotze.
Yeah, or maybe the rule of Rosha Varuba applies, right? Depends how much of you is under the board.
Rosha Varuba, yeah.
If your head and most of you is under the good stuff, then you would be okay.
Maybe so,
yeah, I guess. I'm guessing here, but yeah, that's a good point. Okay, so these 2, Rav Chisda and Rabbah, disagreed with Rav Huna. They said that talking about the boards turned on their edge, they say that it's valid. So they came to Surah. Rav Nachman came to Surah, and Ulagabi Rav Chisda, Rav Huna, and these 2 came to see him. Amrile, they asked him, Hafachan al tzidei mao, what's the rule for if they're on their edge? Amru psula, he said, they're no good. Nasu kishpudin shamatechas. They're like, you treat them like metal rods, metal spits, right? And those are no good because they are a kli, and they're made of metal, so they can become tamei. Amar Rav Huna, so Rav Huna said, "Lo Amri Lechu Amri Kava." See, yeah, didn't I tell you? Like Rav Nachman agreed with me. See, Amarle, they said, "Umi Amar Lan Mar Tama Loka B'Lidei." You know why we didn't agree with you? You never gave us a reason, right? You said your opinion. You didn't give us any support, so that's why we disagreed with you. He said to them, what? Did you ever ask me for a reason? I never gave it to you. If you wanted to know the reason, you should have asked me the reason. I would have given you the reason. Okay. Maybe we have a proof for Rav Huna. What if you have a sukkah that's too small to hold your most of your head, most of your body, and your table? Or there's a hole in the wall that is big enough for a goat to go through. Or if you put a board on it, which is more than 4 tefachim wide. Even though you only put 3 tefachim of that board inside the sukkah boundary, psula. That's invalid. Okay, so it's not so much the space of the that's not covered by the board, it's that the board itself is no good. So
but the whole sukkah is invalid, or just
the whole sukkah is invalid. Yeah. So hechidami, what's going on here? Lav kagon shafachan al sidam. Aren't we? We're assuming that you took several of these boards and turned them on their side. They're 3 tefach wide, and you completely cover the sukkah with them. So, like one board like that wouldn't invalidate the sukkah, right? Because it's only 3 tefachim wide, but multiple ones would. So where it says, "Lo, not necessarily." You put a board over the opening of the sukkah. The aisle tlasel agav. The 3 tefach, so it's not a 3 tefach wide board, it's a 4 tefach wide board. The first 3 tefach was inside the sukkah boundary, and 1 tefach beyond the sukkah boundary. So that's a special case of invalid schach that goes beyond the sukkah. Then we, even though the 1 tefach is outside of the bounds of the sukkah, we still say that we still measure the whole thing. So the fact that it's 4 tefachim wide means that it invalidates the sukkah, even though only 3 tefachim are within. Okay, that's an interesting rule. So we will stop with that here and pick up tomorrow at the top of 15a. And as I said, I'll be doing the whole week as David's on vacation.
Go.
Thank you, Doug.
Welcome, everybody.
Your father's visiting?
Yeah,
I'm here.
here for 2 weeks. Yeah. Have a good day, everybody.
Have a good visit.